So I grew up in the suburbs of New Orleans. However, the suburbs are very, very, very different racial makeup in New Orleans than the suburbs in Kansas City. So I grew up in a community of people who knew that we had to fight for our rights, right? We knew that nobody was coming to save us. We knew that nobody was, that if we didn't speak up about it, it wasn't going to get taken care of, right? We have mothers, we had grandmothers who marched, who spoke up, who sat in meetings at City Hall to talk about issues in their neighborhoods and street lights not being on and crime and trash and all kinds of stuff, right? In this community, that is not what we do.
And here we go. You're listening to the Kings Can Move On podcast with your hosts, Jason Stewart and Frank Rain.
What up, everybody? Welcome to the Kings Can Move On podcast. You have one of your co-hosts right here, Big Frank the Tank, aka Big Reno, aka my kid's daddy. What's happening?
What's up, world? It's your boy Lil J, aka Wood. Welcome to the podcast, everybody. Another fine evening to have a good conversation. And we have a guest this evening we're going to talk to. So, Frank, you want to do the honors?
Yeah, man. We have a special guest in the house today. We have she is a HR talent management consultant for a big bank in the area. She is actually running for Missouri State House Rep, District 12, and mother of three, whose daughter is actually a superstar basketball player down there at the University of Texas Corpus Christi. What's happening, Miss Jaimie Johnson? How you doing today?
I am doing well. How are you guys?
We're good. We're good.
Great.
Thank you for having us on. Thank you for coming on.
For having us.
Of course.
Shut up, man. I haven't lit my sage yet. That's what it was. I was thrown off
already.
Thank you for having me. I will make one correction to the intro. My daughter's at Texas A&M Corpus Christi.
That's what I said. I don't know what you heard, but I said it right.
You said Texas, which is...
You said University of Texas Corpus Christi.
University of Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Doing big things.
Good things. Yeah, she's doing good things. She was just recently voted College Women's Basketball Player of the Year for the state of Texas.
I promise y'all, man, y'all gonna see her in the WNBA soon. That girl is a baller, man. She's a straight up, I've seen videos of her, and she's a straight up baller, man. I wish her all much success. And she has three kids, of course, and all of them do well. All of them are really good kids. So.
Yes, they are. They are really good kids, and they are very bright and very smart. And we're going to talk about them within the context of this conversation. So I look forward to it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I see in your background you got plenty of pics of everybody back there.
Yeah, I got the kids on this side, and then all four of us, and then my grandparents there, and my parents there, and baby pictures, and my sister right here over my shoulder because she's always lurking. I'm sure she'll see this podcast and critique everything. She'll probably have a page of notes for me on what I should have said and what I didn't say. And
tell you what you messed up on.
Because you know how sisters are. You know how siblings are in general. You should have said this. And then, of course, the two pictures here are me and my sister when we were like 3 or 4.
So I think you're very family oriented.
I am. I love my family. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Frank.
And I hear that you don't have a Missouri twang about you. Tell me a little bit about where you're from.
No, I am originally from New Orleans, Louisiana. I actually moved to the Kansas City area as a result of Hurricane Katrina, way back, 17, 18 years ago. And my family and I, and my then husband and kids, we evacuated and we went to Leavenworth, Kansas, to stay with my aunt and uncle. And just way led to way, and we had jobs here, and the city was closed, and so we kind of buried those roots, and the kids, got into school and made friends, and then decisions and life, and I'm still here. So,
Still here.
So
right.
how'd you skip over Texas and all that and end up in Missouri?
Yeah, that's
Well,
where a
we
lot of
actually,
New Orleans cats
so
is going.
yeah, so we actually went to Texas. We stopped. Of course, everybody's plan was to like go to Houston for the weekend, go to Mississippi for the weekend, let the storm blow over and go home. Well, we were in Houston and at a hotel, and watching the news, watching the devastation of the city. And the mayor at the time was Mayor Nagin, and he said, "Don't come back." Said the city is shut down, don't come back. We were like, okay, what's gonna happen now? So what happened was, I at the time worked for a property management company, and we had locations all over the country. And so I had just made friends at our last property management conference. I made friends with another rep in St. Louis. And so I called her. They had a property in St. Louis, and she said, "Yeah, we got space for you. Come on." So we left Houston and were on our way to St. Louis. And on the way there, she called and said, "Hey, the corporate officers from New Orleans are coming here, and they're going to take up all of our bedrooms. We still have space for you. We still have an apartment for you, but it won't be one of the furnished units." And so right about that same time, my aunt called and said, "I bought a pull-out sofa. Somebody better come sleep on it." And so we're just like, okay, we're going to Leavenworth, Kansas instead, detour. And that's how we end up in the Leavenworth, Kansas City area.
Okay.
Now your whole family got displaced, right?
Yes. So I live in Kansas City. My sister's actually the only one who went back. She lives in the Araby, Slidell, Chalmette area. And then my parents are in Birmingham, Alabama. And then my brother, who has always owned a house in the Marrero area, he left. He lived in Atlanta for a while, and then after he sold his house in Atlanta, he went back to New Orleans. So both my sister and brother live in the New Orleans metro area, and then my parents are in Birmingham, and then I'm in Kansas City.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody got displaced. My brother had already moved. He was way before Katrina. He had already moved to Atlanta, but everybody got displaced. And then my brother and sister are the only ones that still live in that area. Aside from aunts and uncles and cousins who were there the whole time, but my immediate family, yeah, everybody was not in the city for quite a time.
Okay.
And since then, you had no desire to go back and.
You're kind of low, Jay.
I heard him.
Maybe my old ass.
That's his bad ears, man.
Clean out your ears,
You want
Frank.
me to yell Busta Rhymes with his mug?
I have had every winter in Kansas City. I think, why the hell do I still live here? And so no, seriously, I have had thoughts of going back, but right now with the political career and my investment in this community, that's not a possibility, at least for the next 2 years, depending on how this election goes. So we'll see how that goes. But no, I've always had thoughts of going back, and it's just I don't know if it's in the cards. Again, way leads to way. We'll see how it goes. But I'd totally be open to moving back south, mainly because it's cold from October to November to January, March, April, May.
Yeah. Right.
So
most of the time,
we'll see what happens.
Like Prince said, sometimes it snows in April up in this month. Woo!
Yeah. Well, I remember a couple years ago, it was a whole foot of snow on the ground for May 5th. And I was like, this ain't it. I'm going back. I'm going back. and I ain't go back.
That's the
I
Midwest.
I ain't go back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I pull the trigger sometimes. I guess I'll figure it out, but not right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you mentioned politics. We've talked about what you're
Hmm.
running for.
Hmm.
What led you to get into politics in the first place?
Hold on, Jay.
So,
Let's
oh,
preface this by first off by saying that I don't like the government.
Do I need to play my disclaimer tone?
Yeah, I don't like the
yeah.
government.
Rank
And
is
we talk, we got a governmental politician on here, and we gonna see what she's talking about, and we gonna see if she can sway me from liking the government. I
can't
doubt it.
nobody sway you.
You
Can't
know
nobody
how
sway you.
tall that order is? Do you have any idea how big of a job that is? I'm not even touching that.
Huge.
So let me start off by saying I am not a politician. Uh, I'm a mom of three. I am a daughter, a sister. I am a community member who is annoyed by the state of things as I see them. And I am open to getting involved to try to make change. So let's start there. So, how did I get involved in politics? Okay, so you want the long story or the short story?
That's the Cliff Notes.
Let's start with the cute story and then we'll get into so how did I get involved in politics? Okay, so I was 7 years old.
What? Wait a minute.
I was listen, just go with me, walk with me, walk with me. I was 7 years old, and um the powers that be decided that there was a question on the agenda for the school board about cutting funding to arts programs. I lived in the suburbs. I've of New Orleans. I've always lived in the suburbs. My parents bought a house in the suburbs, and I was in a violin program. My parents had saved up a whole lot of money to buy me a violin because I wanted to play violin like my friends. And then there was a initiative on the agenda to cut arts funding in elementary schools. Well, my 7 year old self was not happy with that conversation and organized a protest outside of the school board meeting in which my 7 year old self and my friends um, stood outside with our instruments and told people that we did not want them to cut as they went into the school board meeting. We did not want them to cut funding. Now, did I organize the protest? Maybe not, like Will Smith in that song. Maybe was it my Ferrari? No, well, maybe. Of course not. I didn't organize the protest, but I was a part of the protest, and that was probably the first time I was quoted in the newspaper, um, uh, making a statement against a political entity. Now we see school board as politics now because of all the COVID things and how people have been going to school board meetings and shouting at folks and all that kind of stuff. Of course, at the time, I didn't consider that politics in the grand scheme of things, but it is. It is. It absolutely is. When there are people who are elected or appointed to make choices for a community of people, that's politics.
So
And
that put
so
the seed in your mind at that point
to do what? To run
to
for office?
to be in the forefront of making a change.
Yes, and to my parents' credit, they were always plugged in to community volunteerism, to making a difference in the community, to making sure our neighborhood stayed clean. We used to have neighborhood cleanups all the time. We used to have block parties in which they would invite the local law enforcement so they could get to know the members of the community. And I had the local chief of police or the precinct captain's phone number. Probably the first time I had a cell phone, his phone number was in my phone just because my parents had such a great relationship with them. They worked on city council races. One of the things that I harp on when we talk about voting and voting rights is that voting really makes a difference. One of the first races I remember that my parents worked on was city council, who actually Troy Carter, who is now a senator, not a senator, I apologize, Congressman Troy Carter. He was running for city council against an incumbent who had been in the city council for God knows how long, forever. And I remember her name, Jackie Clarkson. And so we stayed up into the middle of the night on an election night, and that race was called very late into the evening. And the difference in the voting was 26 votes. He had won his city council seat by 26 votes. And so, of course, it was contested and reconfirmed, and probably end up being, less than 50 votes difference between one person and the other person. And so when we talk about does your vote matter, it absolutely does, especially in local races like that. And I'll talk about that a little later too, but especially in local races like that, where it really is going to impact you on a daily basis. But that's kind of how I got into politics. Just people making decisions that I didn't like. And so I had something to say about it. And so I still have something to say about it. And that's what I'm I've decided, instead of yelling at the TV and throwing my shoes at the TV, I'm going to actually go and yell at the people who are making stupid decisions that I don't like. So
if you're enjoying this podcast, don't forget to subscribe and like us on YouTube, and rate and follow us on your favorite podcast platform. Are you also in like student government, like at school?
To a certain degree. I was on the student council in elementary school. When I got to high school, I kind of switched roles. I didn't participate in student government. I didn't participate in like class president or any of that, but I was a member of the yearbook staff. So rather than actually be a part of the political process of representing my class or representing my classmates, I was recording, I was taking pictures, I was documenting the history of what happened throughout our high school years.
Okay. So, I bet your picture was all over that yearbook too. I bet it was.
Since you had
that power. I bet
it was not. I was a geeky kid with big Sally Jesse Raphael glasses and big old knobby knees, and I probably weighed 95 pounds soaking wet at my high school graduation. So I was not all over that yearbook.
So so unlike my co-host, I don't hate the government. So
he's still in the matrix. I ain't in the matrix no.
But in my opinion, it's a shady game. It can be a very dirty game.
Yeah.
I think of, and this is fictional, but it could be true. I think about Good Times. You have Alderman Davis on Good Times with his own shit. Like Evans family.
And you too, Wilhelmina.
I think
it's the picture I have.
Right.
About shady ass politicians, trying to get their way just to get in office. But I mean, I know some are trying to do the right thing, but to me, this is a shady game, and this is my personal opinion.
I think to a certain degree, everybody I won't say everybody, a lot of people who get into politics get into it because they want to make a difference and they see things a certain way and they believe they should be different in some way, shape, or form. I don't think anybody gets into it with the idea that it's only going to benefit them or they're not going to represent the people that they've sworn, put their hand on the Bible and sworn to represent.
Then how do they change? How does that change? Is it the money?
I think at the upper levels, when you talk about congressmen and senators and those upper level government officials that we are familiar with, I think there is, to a certain degree, some money, some status involved, and I think absolute power corrupts absolutely. And I think that I think that people are swayed. There are people who are swayable when money and power come into play. But I think most of the people who have gotten into politics or in politics are doing it for the right reasons. Even if I disagree with their political ideologies, I think they're in it for what they believe is doing good for the people that they represent. Um, most of them, not all of them. I think they're, but I think a lot of times we get lost in listening to the people. Sometimes, and that's one thing that I promised the people who will be my constituents when I win, because my campaign manager always says when we win. I promise that they may not always like the way I vote, but they will know why.
So
there will be a level of transparency to where my vote will be explained fully, whether that's in a newsletter or a town hall meeting or something like that.
And speaking of which, you said something about, sorry to interrupt, but speaking of which, you said something about the local level, and you saying that why you're voting. What, with you going to run for the Missouri district, what laws would be made by you if you're elected? What type of laws would you be affected by?
So I'll say this. So in Missouri, there are 163 districts. Of those 163 districts, there are 49 seats that are held by Democrats. They actually had 48 a couple years ago. They flipped the seat. Betsy Fogel, she's amazing. So what laws will be made by me? Probably none, because I'm running as a Democrat, and in Missouri, there's a super majority that can basically run roughshod and do whatever the hell they want. And so there are very little things that Democrats are able to pass in the Missouri State House without the help of a Republican colleague. So a lot of bills that are passed are sponsored by Republicans who agree with the Democrat that this is a good law or a good policy or a good initiative. And then they sponsor it. And then usually the Democrat will co-sponsor, and then the law gets passed or the bill gets passed. So and it's a very slim chance that as a freshman lawmaker that I will be able to pass anything. However, I'm going to try. What I would like to see done is for us to get off these culture war initiatives. Let's get out of people's business, because I don't care what gender you want to be. I don't care, what type of family planning initiatives you want to take up with your family. That ain't my business. I'm not getting into that. But we need to start doing things that are actually going to help the people of Missouri. Missouri has a budget surplus that is billions of dollars, and we are not using that money to help communities, to fund initiatives, to fund programming that will help regular Missourians. But we are worried about the 4 kids who are categorized themselves as transgender and are playing sports in a high school in Missouri. 4 children. And so I want to get off all of that, what you think will win you a primary, and actually help people do things, pass laws, pass policies, fund initiatives that are going to help the state of Missouri. One thing is public education. Missouri is 49th in the country in funding public education. Every year they fund it, then they lower the floor of what funding looks like, and then they fund that. And then Republicans can say, oh, we fully funded public education. Yes, but you also lowered the floor of what that funding looks like. So schools do not have enough money to actually meet the needs of their students, to meet the needs of their special needs students, to even fund transportation so that the kids can go to school 5 days a week. There were a number of school districts in this state that had to go to 4-day week school weeks, because they could not afford to pay for that 5th day of transportation to get students to the school building.
And so what is the government doing with that money? If that's the
Sitting
case,
on it. They're sitting on it. They're
So,
sitting on it and calling themselves being fiscally responsible, which
so
there is some space for fiscal responsibility. However, when there is a need, when there is an obvious need, then we gotta push and we gotta spend some money in order to take care of people the way that they deserve to be taken care of, because that was just budget surplus. That was just money that wasn't spent from other years. So um
so
that was
I wasn't a
mhm,
geography major in
mhm.
school, but I do seem to recall that there's 50 states
There
in
are
the
50
United
states.
States of America. And you just
Mhm.
said Missouri is the 49th, and
49th
that's second
in
from the last.
public education funding. That is correct. We are 50th in starting teacher pay, dead last in starting teacher pay. And so, one of the things, so one of my friends, Jess Piper, I call her my friend. She's my friend on Twitter. She literally, she knows me, but she don't like know me, right? But we best friends on Twitter. So Jess Piper talks all the time. She's from District 1. She's running for state representative in a deeply, deeply red district. She's the only Democrat running. She's a former teacher. She's a rock star. If you don't know her, look her up. Um, she is in a rural district, and she is running a strong campaign, but she talks about rural issues. And what I'm finding is that rural issues and urban issues kind of tend to be the same, in that property values drop, people move away, and you just don't have that base of financial support that you need to actually run a good school district, right? So a lot of those schools that I talked about that had to move to 4-day weeks were rural schools. And so when you talk about being 50th and starting teacher pay, we can't keep teachers in the state of Missouri. We can't keep teachers from leaving and going to teach in other states because we're 50th in starting teacher pay. They can make more money moving their family to another state. And so why would I stay unless I'm deeply invested in the community that I'm serving? And so it's the ones who are here, it's either not about the money or they're not a good enough teacher. To be honest with you, every teacher ain't a great teacher. I've had a lot of them in my day. Every teacher ain't the best. Or they're not a good enough teacher where they feel like they can meet the standards somewhere else. So we're either left with people who deeply care about the community that they're working in, or people who don't give a crap and are just there to collect the paycheck because they don't maybe don't think they can do something else, which either way does
Okay.
not make for a great school school
well,
district.
why would okay? So, and I hear that you run and like I said, I don't like the government, but that's besides the point. There are people out here that do, right? But you just mentioned to me, you are it's 163 districts, and there are 40, what 43, 40 some odd
49.
that are Republicans. I mean Democrats, which is
Mhm.
highly what word am
Unbalanced.
I unbalanced. Thank you. Why run? And why two-part question to that. Why run if you know that you're going to be fighting something that is so uphill that it doesn't sound like you're going to win if when elected? Doesn't sound like you're
Mhm.
going to win what your proposals would be. Secondly, why would someone who is like myself, why would someone like myself vote for or against or whatever the case, vote period? Because if there's nothing that's going to be changed in the area that I'm living in, why would I vote? Why would I
But
why would someone like that vote?
so here's two reasons for that, right? Um, you want change today. You want to vote, and then tomorrow that person you elect gets you more money and gets you better streets and get your lights, the street lights turned on, and can fix the roads and do all of this kind of stuff, right? That's not how it works, number one.
Mhm.
So I am running because we're playing the long game. Right now, Missouri has a super majority, which means, again, like I said earlier, they can pass whatever they want. They don't have to work with Democrats at all. They can do whatever they want. And in this last cycle of redistricting, The district that I'm in is a brand new district from redistricting, right? So our county was the fastest growing county, or I guess the largest growing county in the state of Missouri by percentage, not by population, but by percentage. So our county went from 2 seats to 3 seats. And the way those maps were drawn, the seat that I'm in is a 50-50 district, right? So I have as good a chance of winning as I have of losing. So I have to do my best to convince people that I am a better option than the person that I'm running against. And there is a pretty much 50-50 if I can sway some moderate Republicans to vote for me, which I have talked to a lot of people, and I actually do have a Republican who has endorsed me because of the person that I'm running against. And so I feel like I can win. The reason why I'm running when it seems like such an uphill battle is because this is a long game. This is not, and I think, Jason, I think you play golf. Did I hear that? Did I hear that on a previous podcast?
Yeah.
You don't play
Every
for each
damn
hole,
day.
right?
You were saying.
Okay, Frank. You play golf. You play a long game, right? You don't play each hole individually. You play the whole game. You play the whole game at every hole, right? If
you can focus your mind that way, yeah.
if you're good at it, if you know what you're doing, and you're good at it, et cetera, et cetera. So, but every hole is a different obstacle, right? It's not the same repetition over and over and over, right? You have a different objective on each hole, but that objective gets you to all 18, gets you to the end of all 18. And so that's one of the reasons that I'm running. It's also one of the reasons that a lot of Democrats in the state are running, because we're playing the long game. We need to invest infrastructure. We need to build capacity and invest infrastructure over time to take this state back. The Republicans have had control of the state for 20 plus years. 20 years. So when you look around Missouri, everything that you don't like, that is a state level responsibility, is the Republicans doing for 20 years. So in this last redistricting, we got 57 districts that could go to a Democrat. That's either winnable or flippable, right? Mine is one of them. It's a highly competitive district, and I feel like I can win it. But if we win those 57, then the Republicans no longer have a supermajority in Missouri, and they have to work with Democrats in order to get things passed, which means they can stop passing these stupid extreme bills because they have to work with us. So the rhetoric comes down a little bit. The culture war comes down a little bit, because now I have to be reasonable. And so that's one of the reasons that I'm running. In terms of why you should vote, it's kind of like somebody coming into your house and saying, how much money you made this week? Okay, this is what we're going to do with it. And you're like, wait. You don't even live here. I don't even know you. Who are you? Okay, well, when you don't vote, let's put it this way. Not voting is a vote. You are not getting a say in what happens with the money that comes from the federal government that your state representatives and state senators now have to decide how to disperse, where it's going, who it's going to, what programs it's going to, or whether or not we spend it at all. And at the end of the day, we're going to spend it or not spend it. And you get to have a say in who is sitting in that seat to make that decision. And if they don't do what you want them to do, then you can rally with other like-minded people and vote them out.
So you're basically saying that the government is going to steal your money regardless. It's just how you want them to, where do you want them to take your stolen money and put it towards?
They are not going to steal your money.
The fuck they're stealing your money. And them motherfuckers stealing government, Democrats and Republicans, they are stealing your money. But go ahead, I'm listening.
So I hope when this is all said and done, you don't regret coming on this podcast.
Well, I've known Frank Rainey for quite some time. Do we use last names? You can edit that out. It's okay. I've known Frank.
Shit. Frank the Tank Rainey, baby.
I've known Frank for quite some time, and I already knew before coming on that we was gonna get into a verbal altercation of some type at some point throughout this podcast. So let's move on. Anyway, so you pay into a system. You pay into a system that is supposed to support your basic, civil needs, right? So it's not necessarily that they're stealing your money. You are paying into a system. That system is supposed to appoint a representative to represent your interests. When you don't vote, you are saying, I want to pay into this system, but I don't care who represents me and I don't care what they do with it. Okay. That's what it is at the end of the day. I'm also going to say that voting is just the tip of the iceberg, but I'm gonna let y'all live today. So
that ain't you ain't gotta give me no pass. That's that man right there. I votes.
Right.
But, I don't want to put words in your mouth either, but I'm still stuck on this school funding. So if the state is ran by the Republicans, am I to then think Republicans don't care about education in the state? I mean, I don't understand.
So the agenda that has been placed before us with the CRT debate and the COVID response,
critical race theory,
critical race theory, right? So Republicans have made this whole big old issue about teaching what I consider American history. What is American history? Black history is American history. They have found this critical race theory is basically a law school level theory that is taught to law school level students. And Republicans have created this narrative in which they've spun that to say that they are teaching critical race theory to our K through 12 students. What they're teaching is diversity, equity, and inclusion. The Republicans have labeled everything diversity, equity, inclusion as critical race theory. And so they're trying to pass off this narrative to people who are not paying attention, who, listen to the talking points and who don't do more research, who don't go dig, who don't go look at things. They're trying to sell it to them, a little bit of fear mongering and other things. And say that they're teaching these students critical race theory and they're trying to make your poor little white children feel bad about historical elements that they have nothing to do with. And my answer to that is, you think the white children feel bad and they was the owners. Like, what you think my child feels like sitting in the classroom learning that their ancestors were enslaved? So in the historical story, the telling of the story, yes, there may be some feelings, but as parents and as community members and as people who are invested in telling the whole American story, there are going to be some feelings, and our responsibility is to help our children process those feelings so they can understand, so they can understand what they're learning and they can make a different choice if they're ever confronted with a similar situation in the future. We learn history so we don't repeat it. That's the whole point. And so if you're not telling all sides of that story, my thing is tell all the sides, tell all the point of views, because every single story, every story is someone's history from their point of view.
So one thing that I'll ask you, and this is something that this is my questioning, is the person that you're running against. I did when I invited you on, I did some research on what you're running for and who you're running against. There's a man that you're running against, and if he would like to come on and tell his side, please feel free. He'll get the same treatment about me not liking the government, but I'll ask the problem that I have, the challenge that I have with this gentleman is there's a situation with the school district, with your local school district in your area, where his son was expelled for starting a petition on bringing back slavery. At least that's what I saw.
So I'll correct that story just a little bit.
Okay.
His son did not start the petition. He made comments on, so the petition was started on change.org. And his son was not involved in that. My understanding of the story is his son was not involved in the decision to put the petition up online, but he did make racist comments on the petition after it was posted.
Okay.
So I don't know the level of involvement because these were kids who were obviously who were minors. So we're not saying their names or anything like that, but it was the football team, and these children were on different vehicles going to the football game.
And I heard that they were freshmen, so they're around
freshmen,
14, 15 years old. So and true enough, I understand that 14 and 15-year-olds say some stupid stuff, and God forgive me for the stuff that I said at 14, 15. But at the same time, so if this gentleman is saying that that his child was wrong for being expelled for making racist comments, I would challenge that. I would challenge that on saying, okay, yeah, or he said his child wasn't wrong for making those comments. And my challenge for him would be, why do you feel like that your child wasn't wrong? What are you teaching your child? And what is the school teaching your child? Could your child be taught differently had there been something else in place?
Well, that was the basis of his lawsuit against the school district, was that the school district, the football team, the football coaches did not teach his child the history of the community and why those statements like that are wrong.
But then with the CRT, they want to remove that, so he won't know. He won't learn that at school then. And they just, whatever he learns at home, he'll be able to just spew that to whatever he comes across. So I'm confused.
The other part of his, and this is all public information. Anybody can look it up. You can go find the CaseNet information. It was a federal case. It was publicized. The whole case docket, not the docket, but the filing was posted in the Kansas City Star. So the information in that filing also said that his son was biracial. His wife is of Asian descent. And so they felt like the punishment from the school district was additionally harsh as he was a biracial child. I'm not going to make a comment on the rightness or wrongness of that, but what I will say is the school district presented documents that said that he registered as a white child. So his race. So that's the facts of the situation that don't have nothing to do with my race. However, it does speak to the character of the person that I'm running against. And I'll say that.
Is he already?
I can't imagine
running for open seat. Is he already like in place as you run?
No, it is an open seat, and so we are both running. There is no incumbent. We are running. He's running as a Republican. I'm running as a Democrat for the open seat. What I will say about that situation, again, it speaks to the character of the person that I'm running against, and so, I find in this area that it is different from where I grew up, that, y'all are from urban Kansas City. What's the street? What's the intersection, Frank, that you always talk about?
Baby, 55th and Olive.
There you go. So I grew up in the suburbs of New Orleans. However, the suburbs are very, very, very different racial makeup in New Orleans than the suburbs in Kansas City. So I grew up in a community of people who knew that we had to fight for our rights, right? We knew that nobody was coming to save us. We knew that nobody was, that if we didn't speak up about it, it wasn't going to get taken care of, right? We have mothers, we had grandmothers who marched, who spoke up, who sat in meetings at City Hall to talk about issues in their neighborhoods and street lights not being on and crime and trash and all kinds of stuff, right? In this community, that is not what we do. There are people who are invested. There are people who are attuned to those issues, but we don't have trash in the streets. We don't have street lights that are out. Those things are taken care of, and so we are able to rest in that comfort and believe that if we're not taking care of that, we don't have to worry about these bigger things either. And so that's, one of the questions that you all had on the agenda to talk about tonight was, what are the things that I see in my district? One of the biggest challenges that I see in my district is sleep. that people are safe in this community, and so that extends to their political ideology, that I don't have to know what my politicians are doing because they are taking care of the things that I think they should be taking care of. One of the things that we talk about at like the county level was COVID funding. The federal government sent a lot of money to states and counties to take care of COVID needs, right? Looking at the list of who our county gave the money to, and then who they didn't give the money to. For instance, I live in Platte County. Platte County Health Department got some of the last round of funding. And there were a lot of small businesses that got a lot of money that I disagree with the allocation of those funds. What are we going to do about it? And when I asked community members, when I polled, granted only like 36 people even answered my survey in the beginning. So talking to community members and asking people, did they know where that money went, who the money was allocated to? A lot of people were like, I don't know. You don't know where the money went that the federal government sent to our county to take care of county issues or county COVID concerns. But then we wonder why the Platte County Health Department had to charge $100 for testing when every other entity in the regional area was doing testing for free.
If you're enjoying this podcast, don't forget to subscribe and like us on YouTube and rate and follow us on your favorite podcast platform.
And so we're that's one of the things, it's like the biggest challenge in this community is people who have bought their house, they're raising their kids, they're going to soccer practice, and they're not really paying attention to what's going on at the county, at the state level. And then things like Roe v. Wade come up, the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and now everybody's mad. And everybody's like, how could they do this? Because you weren't paying attention. Because you didn't know what was going on.
That's a good segue. That's a good segue.
Go ahead, Jay.
About Roe versus Wade. So, I was looking at the Supreme Court, the makeup and all that of the Supreme Court. And, there's 9 members, right? 6 males, 3 females, 1 black, 6 conservatives.
2 black. 2 black, because we got a black woman on us.
At the time of that vote, though.
Fine, Frank.
Okay, all right. Well,
either way, I am going to announce here that I am very proud of Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson.
Still,
we got a black woman on the Supreme Court.
But she's still outnumbered.
Okay. All right, I'm done.
Still a conservative ran.
It is very conservative court. Yes.
So what? I'm not, and I'll admit my ignorance to a lot of this stuff. So Supreme Court is conservative. The House right now is Democrats. I read the Senate is Democrat. The White House
is Democrat.
So how in the hell can this happen?
All right, so you ready for this? Voting is how it happens. So, and I'm gonna circle this back to y'all's podcast very specifically. I've heard y'all talk a lot of times to men. Y'all talk about paternity cases. Y'all talk about child support cases. Y'all talk about your experiences in the court system.
Mm-hmm.
Judges are elected or they're appointed by the governor. At the Supreme Court level, at the federal level, judges are appointed by the president.
Mm-hmm.
They are confirmed by the Congress. So you don't like that sentence that your cousin Pookie got over that, half ounce of weed, that little roach that was in his backpack that the police caught him on? You can do something about that through voting.
Do you want to get me started?
Um, I'm yeah, I
You
get
can
that.
do something about that through voting. So
I'm
this is
just
how the court, let me take this back to Roe v. Wade.
yeah.
How the
Let's go
court
back to
became
that.
conservative is President Donald Trump appointed 3 Supreme Court justices: Neil Gorsuch, Amy Coney Barrett, and Brett Kavanaugh.
Right.
And all 3 of them were confirmed by the then Republican Congress.
Mm. So that swayed their direction.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so if you remember a long time ago, President Obama nominated, I can't remember his name now, but he's the Attorney General.
But he didn't get it. Yeah, he didn't get.
Yes, he nominated, but the Republicans who had control of the Congress at that time blocked that nomination and said he was a lame duck president. It was the end of his term. He shouldn't have been doing all that, right? But then they hurry up and pushed Amy Coney Barrett through, like, what, a couple days before the so when you say, what does voting mean? Why should I vote? Because those people, the people who are elected, appoint judges, or the judges are actually elected.
And I noticed that in the local, I hadn't voted since 2012. 2020 was that first time I had voted since then. And I had always noticed when I was in the voting booth, that's locally, or do you want this judge to be retained, or to hold his or her seat? One of them I didn't like, because it's just I remember her in the courtroom when I was there for some shit, and she was, and if she was a guy, I would call her an asshole. He'll call him an asshole, but in this, she was a bitch. She was truly a mean woman, and just it was like she had taken her years of frustration of being a judge out on other people. But you read her bio, she's the nicest person in the world, and so I can agree with you on the voting part, on that locally on judges. That's where I think that needs to be stopped, because I'm pretty sure those Supreme Court judges at some point they were probably a local judge or district judge or something like that, and they had to be voted in to be that, or appointed. Some of them are appointed, but then they also have to be voted in. And I
And
will,
retained.
yeah, and I'll vote no on those people. And so if there needs to be a bigger voice to say, hey, look at this person's track record and see what they're voting for, see what they're doing. Excuse me, see what they're doing when they're on that bench wearing that black dress. Let's go ahead and do it.
Right.
But
But that's a part of the political system that I'm saying, is that's why voting matters, because there is someone making these decisions for you, for your community, for the money that you've paid into the system. And when you don't vote, you're basically telling them that they can make that decision without your input.
So what can be done about Roe versus Wade? Nothing at this point.
So there's a couple things that can be done. The Congress can take it up and they can make it a law. Because what Roe versus Wade was case law, right? So the Supreme Court had taken up the Roe versus Wade case in previous years, previous Supreme Courts that were not necessarily as conservative as this one. And this court had the opportunity with the Dobbs case to revisit the Roe versus Wade decision. And so what they did was, with previous case law, it was decided that there was a constitutional protection at the federal level for abortion. And it was not a state decision. And how our Constitution in these United States of America is written is that if it is not a federal
issue,
responsibility or issue, then the states can decide. Well, because it was in case law, because it was a Supreme Court case that had been decided on, abortion was federally protected from states' decisions. So what this Supreme Court did was they removed the federal protection and said, okay, it is no longer federally protected. Now the states can decide. Ooh, excuse me.
That's what they want to do too. They want to run it at the state levels, because a lot of them have gone out now to ban it at the state level.
Correct. Missouri, it took less than 15 minutes before it was banned in the state of Missouri. We had what's called the trigger law. So as soon as Roe was overturned, the state of Missouri was able to institute a law that banned abortion, even in the cases of rape and incest.
And this has brought about discussion of if they can, overturn this and basically deny a right that people have had for 50 years.
That has been constitutionally protected at the federal level for over 50 years. Correct.
What else can they take away from us?
So what we know for certain is that our boy Clarence Thomas.
I heard him. I did hear him. He wanted. I know.
Wrote an opinion, because all skin folk ain't kinfolk. Lord Jesus, all skin folk ain't kinfolk. Yes. So Oberfeld, Griswold. So we're talking about contraception, the right to contraception, or whether contraception is covered.
Yeah.
Gay marriage and same-sex intimacy. So states could outlaw sex between couples that are the same gender. They could outlaw the marriage of people who are in a marriage with a person who is of their same gender. He basically said he's coming for everything, which
except interracial marriage.
He did not speak specifically on interracial marriage. No, that was not lost on me.
Of course not.
Because because of course, Frank, we coming for your rights, not mine.
Right.
Come on, nah. No. We coming for your rights, not the ones that I enjoy. So
you got to get me started. Please don't make me go on a rampage.
Listen,
statement.
I am just here to indulge and converse and growth.
Share information. That's what you're doing.
To share information. That is what I'm doing. I was invited on the podcast and I accepted, because y'all talk about issues that affect our communities. And these are issues that affect our communities, because I can tell you with great certainty, y'all want to talk about some baby daddy stories? There's going to be some new baby daddy stories. Y'all want to talk about how these judges are making decisions on, child support and whatever? Women can't get abortions.
It's going to be worse.
You Democrats are letting them do it.
There's going to be some more kids running around.
You Democrats are letting them do it. You Democrats can run things right now. Y'all letting them do it. And again, I don't call myself a Democrat or a Republican. Fuck all of them.
Right.
But y'all letting them do it. Y'all got the majority right now, but y'all ain't doing shit about it,
Congress.
In my opinion.
So here's what remember when I talked about Missouri being a supermajority and that they can do whatever they want because they have enough votes to pass bills without the help of Democrats. Congress is not a supermajority for the Democrats. It is very slim margin. So if you want to see some real change, you want to get back to whatever now, obviously. then the Democrats need a larger majority.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fight.
So our plight is
They need
like
a vote-proof majority.
our plight is like we had a gentleman on the show, and I need to get you his information. We had a gentleman on the show a couple weeks ago that started a program, and the reason why me and Jay even started this because we've been screwed by the system. We've been screwed by the system as far as with child support and as far as with visitation, things of that nature. Gentleman is starting that, and one of the things that I even like with his program is he wants to bring people around to where we have a voting majority. We have something where we can say, okay, hey, look, there's a million of us men out here, even women out here that are being abused by the system, and y'all are lumping us into the bullshit, and that's not fair. That's not fair. But we don't have we're not gathered or we're not together right now on that issue. We all feel that same way, but we haven't come together and saying, hey, that this is an issue that needs to be said and needs to be heard. Or if you don't want to hear it, then you don't get our vote. Just like with unions, just like with teachers, just like with firefighters, just like with whomever. And so I think that's like I don't like the government, but I feel like this is what needs to be done in order to get our voices heard, because men are really being screwed over when it comes to. Now I'm not trying to say that there are not men out here that are POS and not taking care of their responsibilities. If they're going to lay down and make a child, then yeah, take care of your responsibility. But when that man falls on hard times, that doesn't mean that man needs to be lumped in there. If that man is, or if that woman is upset, that doesn't mean that man needs to be lumped in there. And that's the case. So what would you say about something like that? What would you say about if men came to you and like, okay, here's what I want. You want my vote. Here's what I need to see change in this system.
There are political action committees that have any number of reasons why they formulated. There are political action committees that are for feminine issues. There are political action committees that are specifically pro-choice. There are people who have Black women have their own political action committees. I know one in the Kansas City area that is run by my campaign manager. It's called Madam for America. She specifically works with and endorses and supports Black women running for office. Start a political action committee. You can start with a community organization that reviews judges' cases and says, okay, well,
those dresses, in those black dresses, those men and women that
Jason, where you get him from? Where you get him from?
That's a good damn question.
Where you come from? Where is the 55th and Olive? Can they put him back wherever he came from? Anyway, yes, the people in those dresses, the people in those Black robes. Yes, I mean, so I think that, to a certain degree, it's just a matter of research, right? It's a matter of looking at judges as a collective of Black men in whatever area that you're in. Maybe you start with the ones in Kansas City and you look at the family court judge rulings of, all the judges on the bench, and you compare them. How did they vote on these issues? How did they rule on these issues? How did they do this? How did they do that? And then you decide who is working in your favor or who in the favor of what you think is fair and just. And then you put out information that says, I'm not trying to sway you, or maybe you are. Maybe you're saying this is a judge we endorse because this is how he rules. It's fair and impartial. And we think that he is, even though we don't necessarily always agree with his rulings or like his rulings, he is following the law. And then you can also advocate as a political action committee, you can advocate for the laws to change. You can review the laws and say, this is harmful, or this is, and you can work with state representatives, you can work with state senators to get those laws changed. There are ways to work within the system to do what you want to do, but
the problem with that is The problem with that is
the problem with that?
The federal government gives these states so much money and funding
Mm-hmm.
for these child support offices. And if they don't, they give them, let's just say $100 million for these child support offices to run them, and they get this funding. And if we fight against that, they're going to be like, well, we got to fight harder, because we don't want to lose that $100 million. Because if we lose that $100 million, we blah blah blah. And this it's a bunch of bullshit.
Here's the thing. You could not do it. You could not worry about it, and you could let everything stay the same the way it is. Or
True.
you can get involved and make some change. And that's kind of like my philosophy on running. So, we talked about my opponent. The reason I decided to run is because he was running. Let's cut the crap. Let's be 100% honest. You talked about him earlier. You talked about how he was involved in our community. There's more stories of his involvement of our community that do not end well, that do not end positively. And knowing that about him, because I had been asked to run multiple times, and I said no. Let somebody else do it. This face in this community, no, I'm good. I don't want the smoke. No, I'm good. I don't want to be bothered. I'm good. And then there was a rumor in the community that he was going to be the Republican nominee, and I said, "Oh hell no! Ain't nobody. Listen, we need to find somebody, because this is not okay. I do not want him as my representative." And so, I joined the committee. I joined the county committee for Democrats, and I said, we need to find somebody, because we can't let this happen. And they looked at me and said, "Aren't you somebody?" And I was like, "Dang it, Sojourner Truth." I am a woman. Ain't I a woman? Yeah. Yes, I am somebody. Dang it, Black history. I am somebody.
Yeah. Okay, Jesse Jackson.
Right, I am somebody. And I was like, yeah, I'm somebody. Okay. And then I decided that since if no one was gonna step up, then guess what? Let me go ahead, put on my magical black girl cape and take care of y'all again. Cause ain't nobody gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. So, so yes, start your political action committee and get donations from your family and friends to review the judges in your community and put out information about who people need to vote for and why people don't need to vote for the judges that are on the bench, or to confirm them, or or you can work within the system. In Kansas City, Freedom Inc. Endorses lots of
I don't want to talk about Freedom Inc. They don't do
okay,
shit.
we're not gonna talk about Freedom Inc. Okay. So I'll just throw a name out there because I know it. I don't know a lot. I'm not from, let me caveat that by saying my roots are not in Kansas City. So a lot of that Kansas City history and things, and to be honest with you, I live in Platte County. I live north of Kansas City. So there's a lot that I am still learning about Kansas City politics. So I don't know what the bee in that bonnet is, but listen, Frank got a whole hive of bees in his bonnet. So
wait a minute. I don't know if I've heard.
We can make honey with the bees in Frank's bonnet. So
I don't.
Honey, I can have miniseries with my shit.
That must be
we could make a whole line of honey products from the bees in Frank's bonnet. Okay. So
I'm not in Missouri anymore, but I'm pretty sure that the elections are pretty much the same across the board, right? Is this one going to be in November, or is it a different time frame that you're running?
So the primary is in August.
Okay.
The deadline to register to vote for that August primary is tomorrow, July 6th. If you are not registered to vote for the primary, then that just means that you don't get to choose your Democratic or Republican nominee fortunately for me, I am not being primaried. There is no other Democrat who is running. And also for my opponent, there is no other Republican who is running for specifically for my race. Um,
So they
the
skip past
we
the
are going
primary
straight to
race.
correct
Okay.
past the primary race on to the general election in November.
Okay.
I have teams of folks who are canvassing neighborhoods, getting my name and my face out there. And we will see what happens in November. So my race specifically is November 8th. Um,
So at the level
so
that
yeah,
you're
August
running,
2nd is the
you guys have
primary.
debates too, or no?
God, I hope so. I am so looking forward to talking to this man in public. Um, just because I I've heard things from, I mean, even I was in a neighborhood canvassing for another Democratic candidate a number of weeks ago, and ran into a person who lives in that person's district who's like, "Oh, you're running up there? You're running against this guy?" And I was like, "Yes." Turns out that was his frat brother.
Mm.
All the tea. That man spilled all the tea. So yeah, I am actually hoping to get into a debate or to participate in a debate with him. I I I just feel like there will be fireworks. It'll be
Sounds like it.
amazing.
You know, I
But
could.
the funny thing about it is, I just read an article a couple weeks ago about a guy who ended up stepping down from the Republican nomination because he punched his Black woman opponent in the face during a debate. And, um,
Hmm.
yeah,
Well, what did she
that
say to him?
You know what? He's gonna get us. We're
I
gonna
don't
hate.
know that,
We're gonna
sir.
hate
I
mail.
don't know that it matters in a whole lot of
Um, for those that were listening, that was Frank the Tank.
but all I'm saying is, listen.
Send him the hate mail, please. We could talk politics all day. I could have a slew of questions, but we're gonna wrap it
Hmm.
up. We've been on here for a little while, and I think we've covered quite a bit of things.
Yeah.
So, did you want to say anything in closing, Jaimie, on your behalf for your campaign before we close it out?
You can. I'll shout out my socials. My social media does a great job. No, social media team, which is like me, and and it's a couple other people does a great job of putting all of our things together. You can find me on my website. It's jaimieformo.com. JAMIEFORMO.com. You can also find me on Twitter, same handle, at Jaimie Formo, and Instagram at Jaimie Formo, and then on Facebook, Jaimie Johnson. And I think the handle is Jaimie, the number 4 MO. And then on TikTok, even though I don't have as great a presence on TikTok as some other folks, but Jaimie, JAMIE, the number 4 MO. So, yep, come see about me. Come see about me. And you know what? Let me say one more thing. So
Okay.
what I decided to do is I am inviting, I'm not asking anybody for their vote. You have a choice in this election. And I'm giving you the opportunity to vet your choices, to look at who your choices are and make a decision. So I'm talking to Republicans and independents and libertarians and constitutionalists and Democrats and liberals and progressives and everybody, right?
And
My
Frank.
tent is big. And Frank, all them people, and Frank, because Frank is his own separate category. But I was talking to a Republican woman the other day, and we had a very she asked me about immigration. That's not something that we handle at the state level. So I need folks to understand what your state politicians can do versus your federal politicians. Taxes, federal taxes, um, immigration policy, those types of things, foreign policy, what's going on with Russia, what's going on with Ukraine, those things are all handled at the federal level. At the state level, we talk about how the money that the federal government sends the state is going to be dispersed. So we're talking about state budgets, we're talking about programs, we're talking about affordable health care, Medicaid, those types of things. And so I'm inviting everyone to this party. I'm inviting everyone to this tent. And I just really want for people to check me out. That's it. Republican, Libertarian, Constitutionalist, Frank,
Anarchist.
check me out. Whatever. Just go to the website, see if what I'm saying is resonating with you. I know I'm not going to get every vote, but I just want you to look and see what your choice is. That's it.
I'm almost afraid to ask Frank for his final words with this one. We usually have to close out with some final words, but I'm kind of.
You don't give me my time, man. You don't give me my time. I
Take
had
back
to,
your time.
as you saw, I had to light my save, man, because I was getting a little
Reclaiming
upset.
your time.
Yeah, I had to get the negative energy of myself, and not anything that Jaimie that said.
Well, let me before you run off the mouth. Again, Jaimie, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Good luck on the election.
Thank you.
All right, Frank.
All right, so
Frank's final words.
Yeah, yes, Jaimie. Thank you for coming out. Good luck to you in the upcoming election. I'll say this, man, and I'm looking at looking at your pictures here, and one of your pictures in your background is a picture of an elephant. An elephant is known for having a great memory, or as I like to say, remember. So I'm gonna dip in my memory for a second. Back when we moved from the hood to the suburbs, I was in third grade, and I remember it was a predominantly white area that we moved to. Um, I remember ending school one day and saying bye to one of my white classmates. I won't say her name. She was a lovely person back then. Still probably is a lovely person right now. All the way up until school, she was a very lovely person. But I said bye to her as school ended, and her dad saw that I said bye to her. Now this was the mid or early to mid '80s, but her dad got out of his station wagon and came up to me, grabbed me by my shirt, and said, "Listen here, you little nigger. Don't you ever say anything to my daughter again." Third grade, that hurt. I immediately went home and told my mom and dad. My brother, he went to the school too, so I told them all. My mom and dad went up there and fought for that. And why was that even happening? This is the things that we're trying to teach. When they talk about critical race theory, this is what we're trying to teach against. I don't want to teach anyone to hate. I don't want anyone to grow up with that hate. I definitely don't. My daughter will be a freshman in high school this year. I don't want her to grow up with that hate. I don't want her to grow up around that hate. So this is what we're fighting for. And so if you're saying that you don't want to be for you don't want critical race theory to be taught, give me something. Give me a reason to tell me why you don't. Because this is what I grew up in. This is what kids are growing up in. And unfortunately, my daughter had to deal with a racial issue in 2001 or 2002, 2022. She had to deal with a racial issue. There's no reason why we should be dealing with racial issues right now. Period. So if you're saying that it shouldn't be taught, then let's teach. Then what are you saying that should be taught? Because the narrative that we've been taught the last 50, 100, 200 years is not working. So let's figure out something that's going to work. So if you don't want critical race theory, what do you want? Because we don't want the same narrative. I don't give a fuck if you're a Democrat. I don't give a fuck if you're a Republican. I don't care who you are. Find something and let's work together. I'm not saying that blacks are great or the greatest. I'm not saying that whites are the greatest, Mexicans, Asians, whatever, Latinos, whatever. I'm saying we're all in this together. And let's fight to be in this together and work together and make this world a better place. You want me to believe in this country? Then show me something to believe in. Show me something. Prove it to me that you're wanting to do something better for the people that you are fighting for, that you're asking to run against. And I'm Jaimie. I'm not talking necessarily to you. I'm talking to every fucking body. Don't get me on my fucking pedestal.
I know we had to cut you off, sir. Oh, go ahead.
let's do it.
Because you about to run off in the mouth.
Yeah, you know it.
And
what I hear you saying is a
fired up.
rising tide lifts all
Yeah.
boats.
Yeah. So
Let's
work together. Let's work together. If you want me to vote for it, want me to be a part of a government that steals my money, help me to believe in y'all. Because I don't.
Jason.
And with that, everybody, if you do vote, please go vote. And even if you don't vote, at least listen to what the hell's going on around you. Pay attention to what's going on. Don't put your head in the sand and just hope shit works out, because it won't. You gotta pay attention to what's going on.
Yeah, active participant.
With that, Big Frank, big angry man Frank.
Big Wood. J. Joe, thanks for coming in.
Appreciate you. Kings, move on, y'all. We out. If you enjoyed that episode, don't forget to subscribe and like us on our YouTube channel, and rate and follow us on your favorite podcast platform.